Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is Skagly Bones, your host of the show, and we are back with another video for you today, another show. So we are talking about last week, or we started talking about bike fit, and I kind of gave you a little bit of a preview and said we got 4 levels of contact points or for fit componentry, okay? And I divide the entire bike into fit componentry or contact points, as you can call them. Everybody calls everything different. So as I started sitting down, thinking about bicycle fit and how to present bicycle fit and how bicycle fit works for me, of course, yes, I've gone and had a professional bike fit through a shop that not only sells bicycles but does the bike fit. I have a number of friends that work in the industry that do bike fit as well. And so as I kind of sat down and decided how to work this out, or how it actually works, and did a lot of research on this, I kind of came up with my own theories and methodologies on bike fit. Okay, now everything that I'm going to talk to you about is not just theories. It's a lot of stuff that people over the years have worked on and talked about, and a lot of bike fitters, fitness people, trainers, and actual riders themselves have come to the conclusion about. And so there's a lot of different standards out there when it comes to things. As you can see, we got some seat posts and we got some saddles. So today's main focus is going to be about saddles. But quickly, I want to go over for you, and since I talked about it a little bit last week, I want to talk a little bit about the different 4 levels of contact points that are on the bike. So we're going to move the camera here just a little bit to get it off the tripod so we can flip ourselves around and look at our bike that is on our stand and kind of talk about those different levels of what I call the level 1 through 4. And some people could almost debate that there is a 5th level as well if you really want to, or even a 6th. You can go so far as your kit and things like that, but we're not going to really get into the clothing aspect of it as far as bike fit is concerned. But of course, it can always be argued that your kit and clothing is part of your comfort. Now obviously we're not going to talk about saddlebags, things like that, or computers, but we are going to start with what I call level 1 componentry. So as I said in the previous video, level 1 contact points and level 4 contact points I think are what, so the smaller the number and the larger the number, what indicates what is the most important for comfort on the bike. So level 1 fit items or contact points. So your main level 1 contact points, well actually your 3 level 1 contact points on your bike is going to be your handlebars. And if you really want to get into it and really get technical, you could say your bar tape, but we're just going to say the handlebars. Okay, so you have your handlebars, you have your saddle, and then you have your pedals. And I will go so far as to say your pedals and your shoes kind of combine. They're almost one piece because of the fact that your cleats attached to your shoes, if not done properly, your cleats are part of your pedals. And if not done properly and fitted properly with your shoes, it's not going to work. So you could almost, this is why you could say there's either 5, it's either 4 or 5, or you could say 4, 5, or 6 levels if you really wanted to. So if you ultimately wanted to get into it, you could even go farther and say your gloves is the first contact point, then your bar tape, then your handlebars. We're not going to go that far. We're just going to make it simple as 4 levels. So we're going to talk about the bars, your saddles, and then of course your pedals and your shoes. So in the last video of this series, we already talked about the pedals and the shoes. we talk mostly about the shoes because that's actually what your feet are fitting into. The contact point, obviously, between your shoes and your feet is going to be your socks. But that's in another video where I talk about kit, personal kit that I use. And that's kind of a personal preference about color and things like that. As long as you're buying cycling socks, anything's that's gonna do for you. The same thing with your shorts. You have to go out there and try different types of kit on and see what fits you the best, what's most comfortable, and then from there. But as far as saddles are concerned, saddles is quite a big debate. And it's not just a big debate now, it's always been a big debate. So what is the best saddle? As you can see here, I have an ISM saddle here. And then even on my Endurance, I have an ISM Adamo road saddle as well. This is more for road cycling. That's a little bit more of a triathlon saddle. But these are the saddles that I choose. Now, and that's a level 1 contact point because you're sitting directly on the saddle. Handlebars, you're directly gripping the handlebars, and your feet are directly touching the pedals through your shoes. So those are your 3 level 1 contact points. Level 2 contact point would be the point from there. So in the case of your pedals, it would be your crank arms and crank and bottom bracket area assembly. For your handlebars, it would be your stem. From your saddle, it would be the seat post. And as you can see, we have a couple seat posts over here as well. Okay, that would be your level 2. Level 3 would then be your frame, okay, which this is what I call the least important part of comfort, because I find people riding steel frames all the time. They don't even have carbon fiber forks. They ride steel frames, they ride aluminum frames, they ride carbon fiber frames, and everybody seems to be comfortable with them once they get used to riding whatever kind of frame they're riding. So most of it's about geometry in the end, but the frame, I believe, is the least important. It's a level 3. It's in the middle. Okay, and this is why some people can debate 5. And the next level would be your wheels. Okay, so some people would say wheels and tires are completely separate, and I kind of agree with that, but I'm kind of combining it for the sake of this because there's not a whole lot of compliance within the tire or the wheels themselves. Most of the ride quality comes into play with the tires because it's a level 4, it's the last level, no matter how you're looking at it, because it's what's contacting the road. You never physically touch the tires, but they are extremely important for your comfort. So they are extremely important contact point because they are what's transferring energy between the road and yourself all through the other contact points. So it goes from the tires into the wheels, into the frame, then into your cranks, seat post, stem, into the handlebars, saddle, and then ultimately into your pedals. And that's where you get your comfort from. That's where you get road vibration from. That's where you get all kinds of things that can make you uncomfortable or can keep you comfortable. So tires are very important. Like I said, level 4, level 1, extremely important. Level 3, not so much. Level 2, not so much. Okay, so talking today about saddles. So as you can see here, we have a number of different types of saddles. I'm going to, as you already saw, you saw the Adamo saddle. We'll go back to that just a little bit so you can see it. The Adamo saddle, I'm going to drop this just a little bit. There we go, so you can see the top of it a little bit better. But the Adamo saddle has a cutout right here, and then it is open in the front. And where you're actually sitting, as if you want to see more about the saddle, look at my review, go back in my videos, look at my review. You're going to be sitting on this portion of the saddle. So you have no contact point with the most forward parts of your crotch area, which becomes the most uncomfortable portions when you're sitting on them, especially for men. Women, it's a little different, but even women rave about this because it puts less pressure on soft tissue and puts more pressure on your sit bones. That's why I ride with the ISM saddles. And in fact, they're the first company to do that And now they're being copied by almost everybody, especially for triathlons. Okay, so you come over here and we have a number of other saddles. Now I'm not saying that ISM is the saddle that everybody must use. It is the saddle that I choose. I believe everybody would be comfortable with it, but of course everybody isn't going to choose to ride with an ISM saddle. Okay, start off with on your left-hand side, we have a San Marco here, and this is just a baseline saddle. Okay, this is what comes with some of the Jamis bikes. As you can see here, it's mostly a flat saddle. It's got a tiny bit of curve in it here. It does have a cutout right here. This is it's not completely open here. It does have a relief point here. It is cut out here, but no cutout in the nose, and the nose does upslope just a little bit. Okay, now you're going to get your chromoly rails with these, but this saddle is probably only probably a $60 or $70 saddle, not super expensive. For the most part, though, it is an entry-level saddle that you're going to get on your bike, pretty much stock when you purchase your bike. As you can see, I have put it through its paces. It has gotten into a couple accidents. It's in a little bit of damage, but overall still a very good saddle. The one thing that I don't like about this saddle is the nylon portion of the saddle itself isn't that stiff, and I'm a heavier person, and as you can see, I'll show you here, see it bends. It's quite flexible, and it's just not as that comfortable for me. So I did use the saddle for a little bit, but soon after, a couple months later, I was changing it out to something a little bit better. As you do see, it does have a pretty heavy flare, so it is meant so your sit bones are sitting here. The only problem is you are sitting back quite far on the saddle. You're going to be sitting all the way back on the back of it, so this is going to come out through your crotch area and give you a little bit of discomfort here in the front. Those reasons. Now, this is a very typical, inexpensive mountain bike saddle. As you can see here, it's going to be a little bit wider. It doesn't have so much of a sharp drop off as this does. If you notice, this has a little bit more of a drop off on the edges here, okay, which is a more traditional road bike saddle. As you can see, this is a little bit wider because you're sitting a little bit more upright. So the more upright you sit, the more your sit bones actually kind of open up a little bit. When you bend over and you're a lot more arrow, and your legs, if you're to bend your knees and your legs up towards your chest, the farther you get up, the more your sit bones actually curve in. Okay, so you need a thinner saddle or you get more thin saddle as that happens. With this, your sit bones are sitting out a little farther, so it's going to be a little bit wider here. But this is a pretty basic saddle. This came off of my son's bike, and then he rode this for a little bit until in a standard Diamondback saddle, until he switched to this saddle. So as you can see here, this is just a standard big fat gel saddle. Okay, got big air gel in there, kind of like a Nike tennis shoe. Has some rubber springs in there to give some springy comfort. This is an extremely stiff saddle here as far as this plate is concerned. This isn't going to flex a whole lot. Okay, so this is made to be ridden like that. You sit on it, you put your whole butt on this thing. It is a little bit shorter in the front, as you can see. It isn't as long as like that, or like this saddle right there. See, it's quite a bit shorter. It's made, you sit on that thing, and it's made to protect your buttocks and make your cheeks happy. But the problem is you can't ride this for too long because after a while it just becomes uncomfortable. You get a lot of chafing and stuff because it is extremely wide, very thick saddle. Now, I recommend these though they're going to have steel rails. As you can see, you're getting some rust in here. But I do recommend something like this for a woman who's starting out. She just wants more upright position. She's going to be sitting more in an upright position, not in a down low position, not an arrow position. She's got like a comfort bike or perhaps a hybrid bike, and she just wants to be comfortable. So that is an option to go to. Do I recommend these? No, not if you're going to be a serious cyclist, but it can be something for somebody who just wants to get out for a couple mile ride on the weekends. Okay. Now here's another stock saddle. I'll take it off. This is the thing for my ISM saddle. This is what comes standard on the Giant road bikes. Okay, this is a road bike saddle, and the nice thing is Giant actually puts a little bit more thought process into their saddle. If you notice here, this is soft and flexible right here at this edge, but they put a lot more stiffness here in the center. The nylon is heavier. Okay, in fact, when I push on this, it is flexible, but it is quite a bit more stiff than like the San Marco. Okay, there's a little bit of slope here, but not much. Yes, you don't have any relief or cutout. That's the one thing you're not going to get with this. But this saddle, the Giant does say that you're meant to sit a little bit more farther forward on it. The only problem is it is a longer saddle, so you're going to have some discomfort in the front end if you don't like to be fully sitting. You don't want to have this saddle come all the way in front of you. Now, what disturbs some people about the ISM saddles or the Adamo saddles is the fact that when you're first sitting on it, you don't have this whole front portion, so you're sitting over the edge of the saddle. They think they're going to fall off, but that's not really the case, because if you watch road cyclists, they will actually take this, slam this all the way back as far as they can get it on the bike, and they will sit as far forward as they can on this little tiny piece. They'll just sit right on that portion of the saddle. You watch them and their butts all the way up here, and you're like, what in the world are they doing? That's not normal. Well, it's because it's very uncomfortable. And the problem is cyclists are paid by sponsors, and they have to ride the sponsors' equipment, so they're kind of stuck. Now this does have a release spot here. It just has some foam padding still there instead of having a full cutout. So it does have a relief, it's just not a full cutout like this guy is. So this guy has a full cutout. It's not just a relief. So you have a relief channel, but then you also have a full cutout. This is just a relief channel. Okay? But very effective. Some people really like these. They're very streamlined. A lot of people like this type of saddle. Okay? But still a stock saddle. This is what you're going to get on your bike when you first buy it. Very strong, nice, heavy titanium rails on this sucker. Okay. Piece there. Put this back on. Sorry about that, folks. Okay. Next portion we come to, the next set of saddles we come to. I got a couple different ones here. So this is another road bike saddle. This is a Blackburn. Okay, as you can see there. And as you can tell here, you got TI there. These are titanium rails, very heavy duty. They're painted. You're not going to get any rust on these. This is a very lightweight saddle. In fact, the weight of this seat post and saddle is the same weight as this guy, and this has your chromoly rails. So in fact, this weighs almost twice as much as this does. So if I was to take this saddle off, it would weigh almost nothing. So the saddle is very lightweight. The shell is going to be same nylon shell, but this is getting a little heavier. If you notice here in the back, instead of using staples, that yes, they've stapled the cover on, but they've bolted this piece in place. In fact, this is so heavy back here, in order to get saddlebag back here, they actually have these little bolt holes, and you can actually bolt a clamp on here for your saddlebag if you really want some. As you can see here, where this comes into, this is just all stapled. This comes apart pretty easily. It's just glued and stapled. This has got a lot of reinforcement here. So Blackburn put a lot of thought into the saddle. Now if you notice one thing here, this is a perfectly flat saddle. Okay, so there is no up curve in this at all like you get in this saddle here. See, there's a little bit of an up curve. Or even in the Giant, you have it is flat, but you have a very, very, very slight up curve. Okay, this saddle you have absolutely no up curve whatsoever. It is 100% flat. It has real heavy drop-offs here. You have no relief channel in the back, no relief channel in the front. You just have one large relief channel in the center, one big cutout for relief there as it goes all the way through. But it's extremely stiff. Even though you have that cutout, this whole saddle is made to be a lot more stiff here in the bottom because the framing of it, the nylon framing, comes all the way down. So it's not super padded. It is a little bit more padded than like your San Marco and your Giant saddles. Okay, you got a little bit less. Well, it's almost about the same, but you got a little less in your Giant. But this is really designed to be a lot quicker saddle. It's a lot less for comfort, more for streamlinability. You're going to be sitting a lot more forward on this saddle. It's not. Let me see how long it is compared to the Giant. It's not a huge difference, but if you notice here, right, the back portion where your sit bones are sitting actually cuts back farther. So you got about an inch of that. This is shorter here, and this piece here is the same length. This portion is shorter here. So this one you would sit back all the way, or sorry, you wouldn't sit back all the way. You sit a lot. You'd sit more farther forward on this guy. Okay. Of course, attached to a nice carbon fiber Easton seat post. Okay. Our last saddle that we have, and this is more of a mountain bike saddle. Okay, so if you look at this guy, it's a lot more flat than a lot of mountain bike saddles. A lot more mountain bike saddles are really curve up. The Diamondback that I put on my son's bike, that was the stock one on my bike, I switched out because it just was not comfortable. It curved up way too much. This is a lot more flat. This is closer to something like the Giant or the Jira from Blackburn. If you notice here, this doesn't have a heavy drop off. It has a little bit of relief here, but not heavy relief. No cutouts in the center or anything. And that's because this nylon. In fact, when I push on this, I have almost no play in that saddle. And for a non-carbon fiber saddle, that is tremendous. If you notice here, they've put nice big screw holes or screws here. So there's not any chance of the material coming apart. So this, if you notice here, you got this heavy cloth here. This is made for mountain biking. This is a mountain biking saddle. Okay, so very heavy duty. Not a super expensive saddle, but very comfortable saddle when it comes to a non-cutoff saddle. Now the one thing nice about this, I would sit pretty far forward on this for mountain biking. The nice thing on mountain biking, you're not in your saddle a ton. You're in and out of your saddle quite a bit, so you don't always have to have something like an ISM saddle. But if you notice, the nose is a little bit wider on this, so a little bit wider nose, a little bit wider profile, more be sitting more upright with this type of saddle. Okay, so that's the different types of saddles you have. A lot of different ones there. I know there's quite a bit more types of saddles. As far as seat posts are concerned, obviously you got your carbon fiber. You have aluminum, which is still pretty lightweight. These things are still pretty lightweight. You have the other thing to look out for too is bolt patterns on your seat posts. We'll go a little bit more into seat posts in one of the later videos, or probably the next one, but different bolt patterns, as you can see there. Single bolt pattern, smaller bolt, single bolt there for that guy. You can have dual bolts, as in this one, but one's an adjustment bolt, one's a tightening bolt, so kind of makes it very foolproof. This one makes it very foolproof, so the saddle ain't just flapping around. It's very easy to micro adjust this type of seat post. Of course, you have my favorite seat post of all the aluminum seat posts out there. I wish it was carbon fiber, but it isn't. And you have this Giant seat post. It looks like you got a bolt here, but you don't. You actually have a little lock nut here and you loosen this up, and then this bolt allows it to adjust up and down. It loosens it just enough that you can slide it forward. If you take the bolt all the way off, of course, then you can take your saddle off. The nice thing is this locks it in place. This allows the saddle to move back and forth without just sliding all over the place. So it allows for great micro adjusting of your saddle, and almost can do it on the fly. You can almost hit this and tighten this up and move it just tiny micro increments. So absolutely awesome C-post design that Giant came up with. But that's enough on that for today. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. Remember, just like your pedals and your shoes, seat, saddle design is very, very important for your comfort on the bike. So make sure you go find yourself a bike shop. They'll let you try out some different saddles. They can also do a lot of them can do a fitting for your sit bones to find out what size saddle you should get. Okay, and if all else fails, a lot of these saddles really aren't that comfortable for you, especially in the nether regions. You can go to an Adamo saddle or ISM saddle where you aren't sitting on half the saddle. It gives you a lot more comfort. Like I said, last year and a half I've been riding with the ISM saddles, and I swear by them. I will never, probably ever ride on one of these saddles again. Keep around just in case something was to break down. I couldn't get another one, but probably quit riding for a little bit until I could save up enough money to get a new ISM saddle if it came down to that. But okay, folks, well, that's it for me for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. Make sure you give us a thumbs up. That always helps keeping us on the air. And like always, keep riding.